Hello, and welcome to another Performance Architects How-To. Performance Architects is a business and technology consulting company that helps companies initiate and sustain big changes in their performance management and business intelligence environments and process. This video, along with others on our channel, should help provide some additional insight as you embark on or continue along your EPM and BI journey. Head over to our channel after this video or come back in the future to learn best practices, hear overviews, and take part in lessons we have designed to help you. We are focused on continuing to develop this community, and we welcome any recommendations you might have for future content. Thanks and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Performance Architects How-To. My name is Bob and I would like to discuss some of the best practices in enrollment planning in the higher ed arena based on my experience. In the next few minutes I will discuss the purpose and advantages to having a structured enrollment planning process. We will talk about the challenges you could face during the design and development of this type of system, what type of data will help you build an accurate planning model, and in my experience, one canned solution does not always fit every university's plan, so the process has to be developed to meet the unique needs of the organization. At the end, I will talk about some of the benefits other universities have gained by building and developing a structured enrollment planning system that best meets their needs. The primary purpose of designing and building a structured enrollment planning system is to assist in estimating future staffing, housing, and revenue needs. Most organizations that I've assisted to build an enrollment process, we're using Excel to build and report off of. If you are using Excel, not only for enrollment planning, but for any other type of planning, you know that it can be very time consuming and sometimes isn't very accurate for one reason or another. And it is next to impossible to make any types of changes quickly. By moving from an Excel-based planning system, whether it's enrollment, compensation, or operating expenses, to a Hyperion planning system, you can reduce your processing time from weeks to days or even hours in some cases, which will leave you more time for analysis, which hopefully leads to better results and estimates. It will also allow you to leverage multiple data sources at different times to plan the most accurate forecast or plan. When you start to design and build an application, you will run into a few challenges. First off, what is the culture throughout the university? What I mean by this is, does each school have its own process for planning, or is there a common process? Will the staff be accepting the change, or will there be pushback from different school staff or administration? It is important in any project where there's going to be change, whether in the process or in opening up data to more scrutiny, to get a buy-in from your end user community. Is there sufficient data in the source system to build a long-range plan? Will you be able to transition historical data from multiple source systems into usable information? Will the lack of information for the amount of detail needed or wanted by key personnel affect what is planned for? And do you want to take into consideration intra-university transfers? How will you account for them at the school or college level? New students need to be accounted for. How will the first year or freshmen and transfer students be estimated? Will students with multiple majors be counted separately or as one student? Do you have satellite or overseas campuses? Probably the most complex issue that I've run into is how to account for attrition or retention between terms and semesters. In other words, how will you know the number of returning students from semester to semester? When working with historical data, you are bound to run into outliers. If you end up using historical averages, these outliers can sometimes cause spikes or dips that throw off the estimates that help build your enrollment plan. You will need to find a way to account for these anomalies. And also, as you know, you will not estimate your enrollment only once a year, but multiple times a year, depending on the amount of data that is available throughout the year. You will need the ability to run the process multiple times a year with different data points. A process that is flexible will need to be created whether you run the process in May, August, or December. As you can assume, the most important part of designing and building an enrollment system is the amount of data that is available to you. I've worked with schools that had extensive data warehouses that contain years of historical data that assisted us in building a very detailed system, while other schools only had student information that showed beginning and ending enrollment and the number of graduates for each term, and very little else. In either situation, as you can assume, you work with what you have. In the situation where we had limited data, we started out on a smaller scale and built a plan to expand as the data warehouse expanded. In this approach, we used a multiple phase process to expand the system's capabilities. When we had the flexibility to use a large data warehouse, we were able to build a detailed system based on many different parameters, and that's what I will discuss next. I've found the use of historical averages are the most efficient way of estimating the future. Unless your institution is making drastic changes in how many students they will accept, the averages should give you a good idea where you'll be in the future. There are several factors involved in estimating an academic year enrollment by term. New first year and transfer targets by term. Basically, this is how many new students will the school accept, both in the first year, freshmen, and transfer students. Spring and fall satellite and abroad enrollment, if your school has that. What are the graduation and degrees completed by term? Attrition and retention from term to term. I found using a 5-year average works the best if you have that information. Intra-university transfers may need to be taken into consideration if you are planning at the individual school level. How many students transfer majors from engineering to MIS or business to science school? This information may not be needed if you're only planning at the total university level, but if you are planning at the school level, it's important to know where the numbers are coming from. For all of these factors, using multiple year averages to total enrollment, whether it's a 5-year or a 3-year average, will assist you in the future. The number of new students, first year, and transfers I have found can sometimes be a discussion point between the different decision makers at an institution. Who will make the final decision on this number? Is it the enrollment office, who is reviewing thousands of applications? Will it be the individual schools? And how much say will the budget office have in this decision? In the best case scenario, I've given a system 3 different sources for the first year and transfer students, 1 for each decision maker. By doing this, the institution can do a comparison of the planned enrollment using 3 different sets of estimates and come to a consensus. What's the best number? This gives you the institution flexibility to use different sources of data from enrollment office, budget office, or the individual school and college to come up with agreed upon enrollment. You can set up different processes within Hyperion Planning to allow the budget office to select one of the 3 sources to estimate the best enrollment numbers. As I mentioned earlier, the attrition and retention calculations are probably the biggest challenge from a calculation perspective. What is the correct way to account for these changes in ending enrollment for each class and the beginning enrollment for the next semester or term? I've used the rolling multi-year average to do this. This allows you to see a trend by school, term, and class to give you the best estimate of what your attrition or / retention is going to be. Then you have to deal with the historical anomalies in calculating averages. This doesn't affect the larger populated schools as much as it would affect the smaller schools. Anytime you are working with averages and a small population, one jump or drop off in your population can greatly affect your percentages. What I have done to assist the clients is to create an adjustment web form or SmartView template that the budget office can use to make corrections that will help any situation that may arise. Once an agreed upon enrollment is set for the organization, you can now estimate your tuition revenue along with room and board, financial aid, and any ancillary costs associated with the student population. Revenue can now also be created and distributed out to the schools and overseas campuses using different averages for allocation purposes. In my experience, the biggest benefit to moving towards a standard Hyperion Planning enrollment budgeting system versus using Microsoft Excel is a stabilization of the process. In Excel, you may have users doing different calculations behind the scenes to develop their enrollment. In this situation, you have no control, and when you are asked where the numbers came from by management, it becomes a process just to find the answer. With a structured planning system using Hyperion, all the calculations are uniform and the process is the same across the board. Using Hyperion Planning allows for more flexibility, both with making quick changes, aggregations, and using different processes, as in the example I used earlier by having 3 different sources for the new students. Accuracy of the data can be a big issue when using Excel and multiple spreadsheets. With Hyperion Planning System, the structure is stable and there is no risk of inaccurate information, other than the user entering bad information. I have found that implementing an enrollment planning system using Hyperion Planning will reduce the time it takes to build your plan. In most cases, it takes several people in the budget office to compile a plan using Excel, anywhere from 2 weeks to a month or more. In most cases, you will see the process reduced to a couple days, and in the best case scenario, 1 day. This allows more time to analyze and discuss the results, allowing the university to make better decisions. The cost savings gained by implementing an enrollment planning system are seen with the reduced time to build, along with the better results you plan in the future, allowing more time to manage your overall university. This concludes my presentation on best practices for enrollment planning. Thank you for joining, and please visit our Performance Architects How-To channel for our other videos on enterprise performance management and business intelligence solutions.